Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Tristan. With me, Kendar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. Today we are doing chapter 12. Tristan stood before the couch, watching him sleep. This wasn't going as he planned. He'd been staying here for 4 days now. 4 days, and the human still slept on the couch. Tristan had expecting him to have such willpower. He could smell the effect he had on him. He could tell there had been. That's a word I used a lot when I started writing. Reflex more than anything else. Like, I couldn't tell you why, but yeah. He could tell there had been no need for the drug he added to his drink when they met. He would have offered to help, even without his pheromones making Alex susceptible. Because I forgot to do that now. He had expected to be offered a bed, as well as them sleeping separately. The human would have wanted to create an illusion of propriety, but Tristan had expected him to start manipulating the situation to get Jack to have sex with him and make his stay dependent on that. Jack to have sex with him. There should be a comma. And to make his stay dependent on that. Jack would have been reluctant, but he would have given in, except it hadn't happened. This actually feels like it's a different thing. Tristan thought that it might the next morning. He'd heard the human in the doorway, breathing heavily. He didn't react, pretending to sleep. The human quietly moved about the room. He waited for a few moments. I'm not changing it, but this is a word that I've gone out of my way to stop using. The vagueness of it is too vague. Like there's ways to be more precise about this. He waited for a few moments to give the human time to make his move. When he didn't, Tristan made a show of waking up, yawning, and stretching, accidentally pushing the covers off his naked form. The human immediately looked away, apologizing for waking him. He took clothes out of the closet and left the room. Moments later, the shower was running. Tristan now looked down at him, lying on the couch, perplexed. How was it he was so honorable? The people he dealt with were always quick to take advantage of a situation. Also, I really overuse commas. Back then. But this human, no matter how many openings he gave him, didn't. It wasn't that he didn't notice them. Tristan had caught the looks. He'd smelled the interest. So why wasn't he acting on them? If he had more time, he'd let this continue. The human had to have a limit, and it would be interesting to see just how far he could push Jack's behavior before the human gave in. However, he couldn't afford to wait. Unfortunately, he couldn't have Jack force himself on him. That could make the human suspicious. If what he was going to do didn't work, he might not have any choice. If what he was going to do now didn't work, he might not have any choice. For his plan to work, they had to have sex. Alex stared, and Tristan's body language softened, his eyes becoming tired. Alex opened an eye, closed it, then pulled the covers up. He frowned, looked up. Is everything all right? He asked, stifling a yawn. Jack stammered. I haven't been sleeping well. Alex sat up. This is a different phrase. Alex sat up. Is there something wrong with the bed? No, the bed's fine. It's just that. Jack was silent for a moment. He looked at Alex, then away. He tried to say something, but nothing came out. He took a deep breath. Do humans always sleep alone? Alex's mouth dropped open for a moment. Well, not always. I mean, couples will sleep together, but the rest tend to sleep alone. Well, usually. Why? My people are pretty gregarious. We almost never sleep alone. I didn't realize it would affect me this much. And I have an interview with Clacomelon tomorrow. Again, he tried to say something. Tried again, and his words were barely above a whisper. Would you like to sleep with me tonight? Alex swallowed hard, his hands tightening over the covers. I don't think I should. It wouldn't. I'm sorry, Jack. I really don't think I should. It was all Tristan could do to keep the shock from showing on his face. He'd given him the perfect opportunity, and he could smell how badly the human wanted it. He didn't see any fear in the human's face, so it wasn't a reaction to something done to him in the past. His refusal was out of concern, genuine concern for Jack's well-being. How could someone put another's well-being before his own desires like that? Tristan couldn't just force himself on it. Not right now. So Jack's face fell. I understand, he whispered. It's okay. He walked back to the bedroom and crawled under the covers, lying on his side, back to the door. Tristan started planning. He could afford to wait 3 days at the most. Maybe Jack could become amorous and try to express his gratitude physically. There was movement in the living room. The human was rustling about. Tristan listened. His breathing was quick and shallow. Was he trying to get comfortable? No. If he were, his breathing would be calming. The human stood, and Tristan smiled. Finally, warned him. This, I have to clarify who is walking, otherwise it's a little. Alex walked to the door and stopped. He was silent for a long time, the scent of desire wafting in. Jack? Alex whispered. Tristan waited a moment, then turned around. Jack looked up, eyes wet, at Alex. Yes? Alex was holding the sheet strapped around his waist. You have to understand, this isn't about you. It just isn't a good idea for me to be in the same bed as you. Tristan looked up, kept the shock from showing again. He'd come here to refuse? Do you know what he... Do you know what a xenophile is? Alex asked. Jack frowned, thinking. It's someone who's attracted to someone outside his species, right? Alex nodded. Attracted sexually, he clarified. Okay, Jack said, his face not showing comprehension. Alex let out a breath. I'm a xenophile, Jack. I'm a gay xenophile. Jack sat up, legs crossed, facing him. Is that wrong? He tilted quizzically. Alex let out an exasperated laugh. You don't understand. If I let myself sleep in the same bed as you, I don't know that I'll be able to control myself. That one I'm a little surprised my editor missed. Tristan couldn't believe the human. He was explaining all this in the hope Jack would tell him to go away. That gave him the advantage, at least. He couldn't have Jack just jump the human, but... You're saying you're attracted to me, Jack said. Alex nodded. Do humans consider that wrong? Alex rested against the frame. He stood. He shook and had trouble breathing. Don't you? He finally managed to ask. Jack thought about it. My people believe that if you're attracted to someone, you should explore where that attraction leads. The only time you consider that to be wrong is if it's forced on someone after it was rejected. Alex sighed in relief. Then you get my position. Jack looked away and brushed the sheet over his midsection. It took him a moment to work up the courage to say what he wanted. I wouldn't reject you. What? Why? Jack looked at him, searching for the right words. You've been nice to me, nicer than anyone I've met since coming here. You look nice, different, but nice. I'd like to find out what it's like being with you. You can't mean that, Alex said in disbelief. He was holding on to the door frame. Tristan couldn't tell if he was keeping himself from running away or to the bed. He was getting annoyed. This human was making him work much harder for this than he should have to. I don't think I understand humans. You do things very differently than we do, but I think I know you. You invited me to stay here and never asked for anything in return. You could have forced yourself on me as a form of repayment, but you didn't. Jack extended a hand toward Alex. I trust you. Alex looked at the hand, hesitated, then crossed the distance, leaving the sheet behind. Took his hand, climbed into the bed, and Jack licked his cheek. Alex tried to kiss him and discovered that kissing someone with a muzzle wasn't a simple task. They figured it out. They figured out how to make it work around midnight, leaving them both giggling and more at ease with them as they move on to explore each other's body. That should be centered. Why is that not? Oh, right, because I reformatted it as a whole and it applied the justification even places it should. Of course. Tristan looked at the ceiling. He'd been awake for an hour now, with the human half draped over his chest. He fought the impulse to push him away, as that wasn't something Jack would do. Now that sex had finally been initiated, he could move on to the next part of his plan. He had infected the human's computer on his first day alone here. The program activated when the human worked on it and recorded how he worked, his typing pattern, and more importantly, how he accessed his work system from home. He'd come home early every day since Jack was here. Wait, what? Try is good? Actually, let's put that on the side. That feels like it should be somewhere else. He'd come home early every day since Jack was here, saying he didn't like leaving him alone any longer than he had to. It wasn't like Jack was a prisoner. The human had given him the lock codes to the door. Consequently, he had to finish his work at home. In a day or two, the program would have enough information so Tristan could infiltrate Luminex's system without arousing suspicion, so he could do some reconnaissance. Alex stared and looked up at him. Good morning, Jack said, with a wide grin. Alex yawned. Morning. How are you feeling? Wait. This. We are looking at multiple. Morning. How are you feeling? I feel wonderful. Any soreness? Alice asked with a hint of worry. Only a little, Jack answered. Not as much as I thought there'd be. What about you? Alex chuckled. More than a little. He lifted the covers and looked at Jack's groin. You're much bigger than I expected. Jack's ears went flat in embarrassment. I'm sorry. After you did it to me, I just wanted to show you how good it felt. It's a good soreness. I'm not complaining. In fact, I'm hoping we get to do it again. Jack smiled and pulled him into a hug. Me too. In fact, nodded to the growing tent under the sheet. Maybe we could do it now? Alex placed a hand on it. Okay, this could have been a statement, but as I read it, it feels more like a question. Alex placed a hand over it and rubbed up and down, making Jack purr. Don't have an appointment today? That's not till this afternoon, Jack said between moans. We have plenty of time. Well, in that case, Alex disappeared under the covers. The bubble his head caused moved until it was over the alien's groin. Then Jack gasped. And this concludes chapter 12. If you're enjoying, and before people worry, that is as explicit as it gets. Like this book was not written to be explicit. So yeah, if you are enjoying this, please subscribe, leave a like, share with your friends. If you want to read the whole story, it is available on all major e-retailer. The link is in the notes, as well as the link to my Patreon, should you want to support me, and my Twitch, if you want to watch me doing this live. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.